Welcome on into a live edition of Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, running through some important NFL trade rumors that involve your Atlanta Falcons. So we're going to cover all of that on today's live show. I also want to spend some time talking about how Atlanta can create some more cap space as we get towards free agency, which is now less than a month away, believe it or not. I think this can serve as a good base layer for the boring-ish side of things, which is the money, but it is important to understand that way you can have a better grasp on who the Falcons can sign in free agency. But as always, shout out your city for me in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from, because I love to see the furthest viewer and sometimes the closest viewer to Atlanta. I see we already have Ty Man the Buckeye in the chat. Carson, I think your percentage breakdown of what happens with Kirk is very spot on. I like that one a lot. Chris, what's going on, dude? Awesome to see you in the chat. Carson's in Griffin, Georgia. Jeremy's in Pensacola, Florida. Eli is in Pennsylvania. Aiden Stackhouse is in the house. He is watching from Ohio. We've got Charlotte here from Vaughn. Let me know where you're tuning in from, as Jamal is watching from McDonough, Georgia. We've got North Carolina here, Virginia as well. Philip is in Augusta, Georgia. El Paso from Chris. Gary's in Tampa. Continue to shout out your city for me in the chat. Let me know where you are watching from. We're going to talk about Myles Garrett. We're going to talk about Kirk Cousins. We have some new information on both of those fronts. We're kind of fighting like a two-front war a little bit, right? We're fighting on the Eastern front, which is, can you get Myles Garrett potentially? And on the Western front, which is Kirk Cousins going to go? So a very bad World War II reference right there, but hey, we'll take it. Trey is in Southwest Atlanta. Western New York is in the house here. Country Boy Atlanta by way of Jonesboro, and Elliot also in ATL. So awesome to see this. I don't want to waste anyone's time, though. I do want to get into the meat and potatoes of today's show. So we're going to run through some of the latest news and rumors surrounding Myles Garrett, Kirk Cousins, and some coaching moves. It is my job to keep you guys up to speed, even if that's not the most sexy storyline out there. We will at least cover it on today's show. Then the money moves. Show me the money. I've not watched Have you ever seen the movie, Jerry Maguire? Yeah, I think everyone's seen clips of the movie.
Yeah, I've only seen like a couple like oh this, and then I'm like, what is this from? And it's like, oh, Jerry Maguire.
The funny thing about Jerry Maguire is if you watch it now, it's hilarious how small the contracts are. He's trying to get his guy a contract from the Cardinals, and he's like begging for 2 years, $10 million. And that's a big contract. And I'm like, whoa, you were in the wrong decade. Mailbag later on. Hashtag Falcons if you want to be a part of the mailbag, or Super Chat. Super Chat, guarantee your question gets on screen. It's also an excellent way to support the channel. So if you like the free content we provide, Super Chat's obviously above and beyond as a great way to show your appreciation. But if you can't Super Chat, not a problem. Just use hashtag Falcons. Jay, I thought we were friends in a way. Like, I don't know. The funny thing about what Jay's comment is he goes, LMAO at rumors. Where are you getting these rumors from? YouTube comments and fan hopes and dreams. Every time we discuss a rumor, I always cite where it comes from. I mean, if I don't cite it, then I just honestly forgot it. Like, forgot to do it, but that rarely ever happens. You're going to see exactly in today's show where it comes from. I'm not like one of those like NFL Rooms Twitter accounts where I just go, they're doing this. Like, I always bring you guys to the origin of where this developed, and then I give you my thoughts on it. That's kind of like the nuts and bolts of the rumor-based episodes, which I also saw people arguing back and forth in the comment section about whether or not they like rumor videos. A common comment I see is, stop with the rumors, just tell me when there's news. That's boring as fuck. You don't want to be ahead of the curve? You don't want to know what's in the works a little bit, what's going on behind the scenes? You just want to find out like everyone else does when they get the notification? I would think you'd want to be the smartest guy in the room when you're hanging out with your friends talking about, so what's Atlanta going to do in free agency? Well, the rumors can kind of lead you to the truth Not every time, but they can give you an idea of the direction they want to go. Okay, Jay's really upset. So, Jay, adios. Let's get into today's episode, though. No, it's okay. It's all right. We got some questions coming in already, so appreciate it. Vincent and Chris and Aiden Stackhouse. Trey, I don't mind the daily content. That's the other thing is like, we could just wait until news happens, and then we'd get how many videos you think? We'd have a video for Justin Simmons, which, by the way, the rumors told us about Justin Simmons. We'd have a video about Matthew Judon, which, by the way, the rumors told us about Matthew Judon. That might be the only videos I film in all of August. So 2 videos for the month. Have at it. All right. Are we ready to roll? Here we go. Let's jump into. Actually, we got 24 likes. We get one more like, 25 likes. I'm sure Jay is not like. Jay's probably unliked the video. He put on his grumpy pants today. I don't know why Jay is so upset. Is this your first NFL offseason, Jay? This is how the NFL offseason works. It's all about rumors until we get official ink to paper. But if you don't want to be a part of that, like by all means, you could just wait till free agency and live under a rock for the next month.
He also said, rumor indicates there's facts behind it. If there's facts behind it, it's a fact.
I don't think that's how rumors work. Like, you think about rumors just from like a high school lunchroom standpoint. You're saying every rumor has facts in it? I don't think that's how rumors work, actually. I don't think you have a good definition of rumors. I think that's your problem. I think you need to go and learn what a rumor is. And there's a lot of rumors that we're going to talk about. And you can decide if you think it's a plausible thing, if you want it to happen or not. But if you don't want that to be part of your daily routine, by all means, you don't have to watch. But yet you are watching. Yeah, that's the other thing, Nathan's like, no one's making you stay. If this is not your cup of tea, if you're like, for example, let's say you don't like mock drafts. You just think it's pointless, waste of time, no one ever gets it right. All right, then just don't watch the mock draft. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff you can watch on YouTube. I saw YouTube, by the way, I thought this was very interesting. Actually, quick poll here of everyone watching. YouTube has recently shared some data. I would say shared, but maybe been published. Majority of YouTube viewers are watching on TV now versus on their phone or their tablet. And that is incentivizing people to do longer form content. So like when you watch TV, you kind of watch TV for 30 to 60 minutes. So what are you guys watching on right now? TV, phone, or tablet? Atlanta Dog, I think that's Jay's like Jekyll and Hyde count right there. Aiden's watching on his phone. We got 100 people watching. Trey's on his phone. Anyone watching on their TV? Nope. So it's a win for the phones. That's a great point. Yeah, I can't. I kind of forgot about that part. I'm polling people that are yelling at their TV and can't do anything about it. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. That's a dumb moment. That's kind of like when Truman held up the newspaper of Dewey defeats Truman. You don't want to know how, you know that picture I'm talking about? When President Truman won his election and he holds up the newspaper that says on the front page, Dewey defeats Truman, and the Chicago Tribune, the New York Times, whichever paper it was, got it wrong. The reason why they got it wrong was because it was a very early form of polling, and they called people to ask who you're voting for. And everyone they called said Dewey. They didn't realize was back in the late 40s, not everyone had a phone. So they were only polling the wealthy people, which was not a majority of the population. So people without phones were voting for Truman, but they were never polled because they didn't have a phone. So fun fact right there. Grab my phone to say TV. Thank you, Phoenix. Now I know that there's one of you guys out there. All right, enough of my boring history stuff. Let's talk all about some of Jay's favorite topic. Jay, this next segment is just for you, buddy. Everyone else get out. It's you and me in the room, Jay. We're talking about some trade rumors, talking about some of the buzz out there. And I promise, Jay, I'm going to tell you with every single rumor where it originates from. So, without further ado, let's jump into a live edition of Falcons Today. I want to start today's episode off by going through the latest trade buzz on Myles Garrett, what's going on with the Cleveland Browns star pass rusher. Quickly, make sure to subscribe, though. That way you stay in the loop in case a trade does happen as these rumors start to gain momentum getting towards free agency. Now, ESPN's Bill Barnwell put out a really good article that I enjoyed reading talking about what happens next with Garrett, where he possibly ends up, and also what it could cost to acquire the 2023 Defensive Player of the Year. So here's how he broke it down. The first tier of teams was not trading for Garrett, a.k.a. everyone else in the AFC North. The Browns are just not dealing their star player within the division. That's not uncommon. We have seen division trades before. Most recently is Jahan Dotson from the Commanders to the Eagles. TJ Hawkinson's another example. Drew Bledsoe from the Patriots to the Bills as well. So these are three teams that are just off limits. The next group of teams, next tier, if you will, is no need for edge. The Denver Broncos just led the NFL in sacks this past season. I think they're probably pretty good at that spot. The Houston Texans, they have Danielle Hunter. They have a lot of good players like Will Anderson. There's just not a need for Myles Garrett given what it would cost to acquire him. The Rams have sneakily a really good young and up-and-coming defensive front with great draft picks and Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Byron Young. So this, to me, checks out. The next group is the not competitive group, and I agree with all this right here. There's no reason for any of these teams to trade for a 29-year-old defensive end when that's not going to be the final piece of the puzzle or the first piece of the puzzle. They've got to start getting some younger, high-quality players with their top 10 draft picks. So, yes, no qualms with this group right here. This next part I thought was kind of interesting. It was third party. NBA trades frequently include three teams in a trade. I can't remember the last time we had a three-team trade in the NFL. I think Herschel Walker's trade was a three-team trade, but that was decades ago. So someone fact-check me if there's been one since then. But this talked about how none of these teams really need Myles Garrett, but maybe they could be a part of a Myles Garrett trade to help one side out with what the other team can't bring them or offer them. But now we land at the unlikely but plausible step. And here's where we find the Atlanta Falcons. I don't agree with them being in this category. I'll say that right now. I don't think they should be in the same tier of, other teams that are unlikely because the Atlanta Falcons just finished 31st in sacks. They should be aggressive in a trade for any pass rusher, especially one like Myles Garrett. Now, this is what Barnwell wrote. The only issue for the Falcons is cap space. They're $8.6 million over the projected cap line for 2025 and would need to create another hole on the offense or defensive line to free up room. They will try to trade Kirk Cousins. Browns coach Kevin Stefanski has both a need for a quarterback and experienced coaching Cousins, but no team is going to want to absorb the $27.5 million base salary guaranteed to Cousins. Garrett only has a $1.3 million base salary this season, but could the Falcons afford to pay and trade Cousins, acquire Garrett, give him a new extension, and stay plausibly cap compliant? Bill, I'm going to show you how the Falcons can stay cap compliant. It's very important to remember, whenever we talk about trading for any player and you go up on Spotrac or Over the Cap and you look at their contract, you are not trading for their cap hit on that team. You are trading for any cash that has not been paid out to that player, which includes base salaries, signing bonuses, workout roster bonuses, things like that. That is what you are acquiring. So the Falcons don't need to have a ton of cap space for Myles Garrett. No, Myles Garrett's cap hit's going to be a $1.3 million base salary. But they do need cap space in the future because he's going to want a brand new contract extension. But here is how you can become cap compliant with them being, let's just say, to make math easy, $10 million over the salary cap. First step is you can restructure all these guys' contracts. Chris Lindstrom can free you up basically the $8-ish million you need, and poof, you are in the green for the salary cap, and this to me is a safe bet to make. He is just entering the prime of his career. He's under 30 years old. You expect him to be a part of your team long term. Same for Jesse Bates, same for Jake Matthews, and this can get you a whopping-ish $24 million. Now remember, a restructure is not a pay cut. These guys are not doing the Falcons a solid and saying, I'll take less money so we can get Myles Garrett. A contract restructure is taking a player's base salary and prorating it over signing bonuses of future years. Why does every team not do this? There are pros and cons to it. One con is a team owner has to write a signing bonus check. There are some teams, wink wink the Bengals, who cannot just snap their fingers and sign a $10 million check like this for all their star players. There are teams that are a little bit cash poor. Luckily for Atlanta, that is not the case. Arthur Blank, with his big yacht in the Caribbean, can absolutely sign a check for a signing bonus for one of these players. They're still getting the same amount of money. It's just coming in a different format. That is a restructure. The other way they can free up some more cap space is if they were to trade Kyle Pitts away. And this is going to divide the room, I know that. But if you trade him before June 1st, it frees up, or even after June 1st for that matter, $10.8 million in cap space. That is his fifth-year option. It is fully guaranteed. It's the only time when a player's contract is very simple to follow. His base salary, $10.8 million. His cap hit, $10.8 million. If you trade him away, there goes $10.8 million. Now, you can also agree to split the salary with the team you're trading him to. Maybe they don't have $11 million in cap space. They only have $7 million. So you say, we'll eat some of that, but we want a better draft pick in return for still paying a third of his salary. That happens frequently as well. But if you do those three contract restructures, along with the Kyle Pitts trade, you have now created $35 million in cap space. And remember, Myles' base salary is a little over $1 million. So, from a financial standpoint, don't tell me it's impossible. Do you have to do some moves? Yes, you do have to do some moves. You got to do moves regardless, because right now you're $8 million and change over the salary cap. So someone's getting restructured or someone's getting traded. So if you're already halfway there, why not do the second half and acquire Garrett in the process? You do have to give him a brand new contract extension, which I don't think should be a problem for anyone. The guy is playing at an elite level. He's the first player in NFL history to have 6 seasons with 12 or more sacks before turning 30 years old. He does not look like he is slowing down whatsoever. He is a Greek god. He was chiseled by Zeus. He is going to play at a Pro Bowl, All-Pro level for probably the next 3 years. And then the next 2 years after that, he will be an 8 to 12 sack player type of guy. So we're looking at 5 good years for Myles coming up. That is worth, in my opinion, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, a new contract and also the assets required to give up to acquire him and the money moving around you have to do. It can be done. And Arthur Blank, I think, will spend the money. I was listening to a clip of a podcast from Jason at Over the Cap, and I think it was with Ari Miroff. And Ari asked Jason, if the NFL did not have a salary cap, who would be the LA Dodgers? Any guesses on what Jason said pretty quickly? The Philadelphia Eagles, which look at how they spend. They are aggressive in spending, and they restructure contracts. They push money down the road, and they got a Super Bowl out of it because they maximize their current spending now. Let's say you buy, for example, a $1 million home. You can pay for that $1 million today. Or you can get an interest-free loan, and you can push some of that money in the future. With the way the salary cap goes up, it's in your best interest to not pay $1 million right now, because $1 million today is worth a lot more than $1 million 5 years from now. So push that money down the road. You're paying the same amount, but the percentage cap hit goes down. And by the way, I bring this up because after the Eagles, Jason from Over the Cap said, I'd also mention the Atlanta Falcons because of Arthur Blank. So money for the Falcons is not a problem. They can acquire Garrett. It just comes down to doing it. So now I turn it over to you. Do you want to trade for 95? Give me a T for trade or a P for pass in the comment section. Let's see what the majority is. The next portion of today's episode, some Kirk Cousins rumors out there from ESPN as well. I want to relay that to you guys in just a second. But I do have to give a big special shout out to our friends over at Factor. Factor has made chef-made gourmet meals, eating well, super easy. They are dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. So you can fuel up and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared for any active, busy lifestyle. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor's great if you're trying to lose some weight as well, which your boy is because he's a little over 100 days away from the big day, and Factor can help out with that. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off and use code FalconsChat50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FalconsChat50off at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Back to Kirk Cousins and the latest buzz out there. If you recall, during Radio Row, Super Bowl lead up, and the week leading up to it, he hopped on a couple of shows and said that he played through a shoulder and elbow injury, which was new information because Falcons and Kirk Cousins were adamant there was no injury. And all of a sudden, I think Kirk Cousins goes in self-preservation mode, and he wants other teams to know, I'm still a good quarterback. I got injured, and I played through it, and I didn't tell anyone about it because if I felt like they might bench me, I might never get my job back if Michael Penix plays well. And so shame on Kirk for that, and also shame on Raheem Morris. You don't notice your quarterback is injured? It's your job to be in charge of the team. You don't walk out to practice one day on a Thursday and go, man, Kirk does not seem to have the zip he had back in October. Wonder what happened. You watch the film. I found the clip of him getting injured within 30 minutes. And it's not even my job. So, shame on both parties here. But the reason why I'm talking about it today is the Falcons beat reporter from ESPN, Mark Ramadorni, said both sides come out of this with egg on their faces. And even the small chance Cousins might return to Atlanta seems to be decreasing now. The Falcons releasing him next month and eating $65 million in dead money is most likely. Thoughts and prayers to Lane Bartlett in the comment section. The first person I thought of, and this is not me trying to be super petty, but was this comment from like 2 days ago saying, Kirk is saying, stop with the trade bait. And this is just kind of an overarching message to the people out there watching that hate the rumors-based videos. Guess what? When Kirk Cousins does end up getting released, you won't be blindsided because we will have talked about this for a long time. And I'm going to say right now, Kirk Cousins, you are not the father. No, you are not a Falcon. Come March 17th, the 5th day of the new league year, Atlanta is not keeping him on their roster for a $10 million roster bonus. Now, if I'm wrong, which may have happened once or twice last offseason, allegedly, it's because the Falcons want to trade Kirk. And Kirk, with his no trade clause, doesn't want to get traded. So the Falcons tell Kirk, if you don't waive your no trade clause, we'll keep you hostage. You'll be the backup, and you won't get a chance to start somewhere else. I'm sorry I can't give credit to, but someone in the comment section pointed out this idea yesterday, and I thought it was a brilliant idea that I just had not thought of, which is Falcons, believe it or not, do have some leverage in this. They tell Kirk, fine, we're not releasing you. We'll eat $10 million, which I don't think is a good move, but we'll eat $10 million, and you'll be the backup here. Or you could pick up your no-trade clause and let us trade you to the Browns, the Jets, or some other team like the Raiders that calls. Your decision. Either be a backup here or compete for a starting job there. And if they enter a stalemate and Kirk's like, nope, I want you to release me, and it goes into the season, maybe they hold on to him to wait and see if a starting quarterback elsewhere gets injured. And then at that point, Kirk's like, okay, this is a good separation for both parties at this time now. So let me know, would you bring back Kirk Cousins? I'm typing no. I understand that financially you have nothing to gain by releasing him. But from a locker room standpoint, it's got to be so uncomfortable. Just to go to work each day, you get in the quarterback room, there's Michael Penix in year 2 trying to get ready, and sitting right behind him is someone who's, I would imagine, not there to make sure Penix is the best version of himself, to point things out on film to Penix. No, he's probably there because he's getting paid a lot of money. That does not seem to be a good situation. No, that seems like a situation where The Athletic is going to write an article about it a year from now, detailing how incredibly awkward it was for Penix to walk around on eggshells as the team's starting quarterback because Atlanta kept Cousins around to be the backup. Final piece of news I want to talk about on today's episode, some coaching news. So we have a promotion in our ranks, and it's a familiar name that you might not have realized was on the coaching staff to begin with, but picking up where we left off with our good friend from ESPN, the Falcons have promoted quarterback coach TJ Yates to passing game coordinator. DJ Williams, the former offensive assistant QB coach, is now the QB coach. So congratulations to Yates, the Yates from hell. He's always good for playing in a random Texans playoff game against the Bengals at that first time slot on Saturday. This might be a name to watch for. If you ever want to know, like, how do people have a good beat on these up-and-coming young offensive-minded individuals, see how quickly they ascend in their own organization to make sure they aren't poached away by another team. So TJ Yates definitely looks like a rising name. I don't want to say it reminds me of like Kellen Moore because that seems like a really tall bar given how quickly Moore has now ascended all the way to being a head coach. But Moore was in a similar spot where he was with his former team, the Cowboys, and he worked his way up to being an offensive coordinator. And 2 years later, he is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. To wrap up today's episode, we're going to pick a name out of the wheel. So I picked 6 names out of the wheel. We're going to spin the wheel and see who it lands on to get 2 claps to conclude today's episode. So let's spin that wheel. Who's going to be the MVP of today's episode? It's looking good for Yachty B. Oh, what a bad break. Oh, that's tough. Nope, it's Nathaniel Simmons. So, Nate, thank you so much for watching the channel. 2 claps for Mr. Nathaniel. 1, 2. We will sign off, and we will see you all tomorrow with more Falcons content. I saw a super chat fly in. Looks like 2 super chats, maybe? PD Falcons Today by Chat Sport. Was this actually in the message? He usually never includes a message. That's all. Wow, I am honored. Thank you so much, Grand Limousine. You never include messages in there, so that's awesome. Appreciate you supporting the channel like this. Love it. Oh, Yachty B, I'm sorry. Yeah, also, Yachty B came from my throat. All right, Reed, let me ask you. What percentile am I in Chat Sports when it comes to professional wardrobe at the office?
98.
Yeah. There are a lot of folks in sweatpants and T-shirts.
Including
I
me.
wear every single day. You can't really see it. Khakis, some kind of like nice pants, and a polo.
Yep, every time,
wear
without fail.
a T-shirt one time. And Yachty B's calling for my job.
Yep.
Saying I'm unprofessional.
Unprofessional.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm currently in sweatpants and a sweatshirt. But, yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and congratulations to Reed. He's a champion. What's it like? Oh, Reed wants to get this time on screen.
It feels good. It does feel good. Very nerve-wracking. Like every day that got closer to the Super Bowl, my anxiety levels kept going up because I was like, I just want to watch the game, but it's just each day that gets closer, I'm like, oh my God, we have to play the Chiefs.
I'll be honest, I called game for the Eagles when they got their first defensive stop. I was like, they scored on their opening drive and they stopped them. And I know the Chiefs have done this a million times, but the Chiefs this year did not look like a 15-2 team traditionally. I think they might be the worst 15-2 team. Well, there's not many 15-2 teams out there anymore, but from a point differential standpoint, it's one of the worst for a two-loss team.
When you break a record for the most games, like one-score games that have been won,
yeah,
that should say something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that, oh, yeah, you're really good at closing out a game. It's, why are you in such close one-score games for 16 games? Like,
we got a super chat coming in from Girthquake. I saw a funny tweet today that was like, boys' Twitter is just one of three things. Sexual stuff, suicide, or sports fan page. And I was like, well, I'm the sports fan page, and Girthquake is the sexual side. I never got my two claps for my first super chat. All I got was criticize. Good movie. When was this? Like months ago?
This is when he had
Pound Town?
The shadow.
The shadow.
The shadow of it.
Here's your two claps now. 1, 2. Thank you, Girthquake. Thank you. All right, let's jump into our next segment. It is all about how Atlanta can free up some cap space, which we just took a sneak peek at in our last video, but I'll expand more on that subject as we get closer and closer to NFL free agency. Girthquake is a wild username. The profile picture is equally wild. 2 tickets to Pound Town. The one before was unmatched. Nearly 200 people tuned in right now. We have 66 likes, so make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you have not already. Also, get your questions in early and often to be a part of our mailbag. If you super chat, we guarantee it gets on screen, like Grand Limousine and Girthquake, or you can just go #Falcons in the chat, and producer Reed will pick his favorite questions. PD, what was the most tough loss for the Falcons this year? That's a good question, I'd say. Just toss a #Falcons on that, and I'll answer it in our mailbag. I'm kind of running. I got one in my head right now. Yeah, let's see if I can come up with a better one. Another super chat from Grand Limousine. Let's go. Also, from the chat, I need eyes on Trucker Mike. You guys need to alert me because he usually comes in the chat around this portion of the show. But Grand Limousine, let's go. Thank you, sir, for supporting the channel. Always going above and beyond. Always great to see you in the chat. Rise up, Grand Limousine. Hope you're having an awesome day. Thank you so much for supporting us every single time you log on. Okay, are we ready for our second segment? Where is Trucker Mike? I'm with you, Vincent. Vincent, remember, got it right last week by the city. So there might be some collusion there. I can't rule it out. All right. I think we're ready to rock and roll. Here we go. We're going to talk about everyone's kind of least favorite subject, and that's the NFL salary cap. But I do think once you kind of learn it, it's like an eye-opening moment of, whoa, I'm a big you-know-what in the locker room. I know how base salaries and restructures work. Yeah. Where's Trucker Mike? Better get Trucker Mike. All right, here we go. On today's episode, I want to go over how the Falcons can free up some cap space with NFL free agency. Believe it or not, less than a month away. It'll kick off unofficially on March 10th. That's when the legal tampering begins. And then officially on March 12th, the first day of the new league year. But the Falcons are in a little bit of a hole. This is from Over the Cap. They're around $11 million in the red. So they got to get cap compliant by the start of the new league year. So there are a couple of ways they can do that. There are some simple ways, right? They can always just cut people, things like that. But I want to go through how they got to where they are right now, because people are going to look at this and be afraid of it. I don't think you should be afraid of it. There are 4 or 5 biggest cap hits. For one, if you have expensive roster, it usually means you're paying a lot of good players. So you look at their top 5 biggest cap hits, and while Cousins definitely not playing at the $40 million cap hit level, Lindstrom, Bates, Matthews, Grady Jarrett, these are all fine-worthy investments. I'd rather have a team that spends some money, and if they come up short, at least they tried, rather than be like the Oakland A's of the NFL. And we always have cap space because we never spend money on good players. So now let's talk about how they can free up some cap space to get in the green. Step 1, 3 restructure candidates. Now, first things first. I don't want to mansplain, but what is a contract restructure? A contract restructure is not a pay cut. It is not the player doing the team a big favor. A contract restructure is taking a player's base salary and prorating it over the remaining years of their contract into a signing bonus. Why does not every team do this? Well, you need an owner who will sign a signing bonus check that day. Not every owner wants to sign that big of a check. That's one part of it. Another part of it is you push money down the line for their contract. If you don't think they're going to be a part of your team towards the end of the contract and you want to get out of their contract early, don't restructure someone because you'll be left with a big bill at the end. Whereas, hey, we think this guy's going to be here for the long haul, we're thinking of extending him, then restructure, push the money down, and then when that new contract comes, you have more years to spread that cap hit over. So here are 3 players that I think are prime restructure candidates. Chris Lindstrom, Jesse Bates, and Jake Matthews. These are all players I think we can agree are on a good track to be here for the rest of their contract. There's no plans of moving on from a year or 2 early. They are also 3 players who I think could get another contract from Atlanta, and then you have more years to spread that cap hit over. So Lindstrom just entering the prime of his career. Bates continue to play at an all-pro level. Jake Matthews, I think, is going to get another contract from Atlanta. We've seen some great offensive linemen play past the age of 35. And Matthews is, last time I checked, like 33 years old. And I think this is going to be his last year of his deal. So I could see him getting a new contract, and then you can spread that cap hit over the new years on that deal. This frees up about $24 million in salary cap space. Now, if you still don't really understand how the cap works, I'm not with you there because I spent a lot of time trying to learn it myself. But even I myself find myself at times searching stuff up because the salary cap is very confusing and it's kind of a myth, but it's also very real. So if you want more just knowledge on this subject, subscribe, and I'm going to do my absolute best to teach it to you in a digestible, simple way. The second way Atlanta can free up some more cap space is probably the simplest way. Cut players. That is like the bare bones. If you want to free up cap space, take expensive contracts off of your roster. So here are 3 cut candidates for Atlanta that would have a sizable impact on the salary cap. Grady Jarrett, Caleb McGarry, and David Onyemata. You cut all 3 of these guys, and you free up nearly $40 million in cap space. Now, I'm not advertising or suggesting that all 3 should be cut. But if you don't want to restructure for whatever reason, which, by the way, you know who loves to restructure contracts? The Eagles. I think they're doing pretty well. But if you don't want to go down that path, here's another alternative route. Jarrett and Onyemata. Let's start with these 2 guys here, and then we'll talk about McGarry. They're both on the wrong side of 30. I thought Onyemata played better than Jarrett did last season. But I think we can all agree that Grady Jarrett is a huge leader and part of the locker room. So the question that Raheem Morris and this front office are going to have to ask themselves is, do they believe in their 2024 draft picks, Rukaroro and Brandon Dorlus, to step into a larger role? They drafted them at similar positions on the defensive line, and usually that's kind of the writing on the wall of, we found your replacements. Now we got to wait and see, do the Falcons want to turn it over to those guys, or do they feel like they're not starting quality players just yet? Let's hold on to our veterans a little bit longer. I personally don't want to move on from either one, but I also understand $16 million and $8 million is a good chunk of change that you can save on. As for Caleb McGarry, here's the tough part. He's a good run blocker. I know people like to dog on him and whatnot. He's a better run blocker than pass blocker, but you have a lefty starting quarterback, and your blindside tackle is an average at best, and that's going to be on a good day, pass protector. So it's not a great fit. And if you feel like we need to go a different direction at right tackle to shore up Penix's blind side, then maybe McGarry gets the axe. There's very little dead money tied to his contract, $14 million in cap savings. I wish I had like a bit of a backbone to say right now which of these three guys I would cut. I would like to say all three should stay. I know that Jarrett and Onyemata are getting older, and you guys can make the decision of who you would like to see Atlanta cut right now. And McGarry is not a good pass protector. There are plenty of valid reasons to move on from maybe all three of these guys right here. But they didn't draft an offensive tackle last year. And while it's only 1 year, I wasn't all that encouraged by what I saw from the rookie defensive lineman. And for a defense that was not very good, I don't know if moving on from two of your better players is going to improve this team. But Bill Belichick always says it's better to move on from a guy 1 year too early than 1 year too late. The third way you can free up some cap space: trade contracts away. This is probably the least common way that teams go about freeing up cap space. They usually make trades that are incentivized by acquiring draft picks, not we just want to get rid of contracts. There's really only one big, notable, obvious trade candidate from a money-saving side: Kyle Pitts. Trade Kyle Pitts, you trade away his fully guaranteed fifth-year option, which clocks in at $10.8 million. Now, maybe a team doesn't want to take on that $10.8 million. They want to take on $5 million. Well, you can split the $10.8 million, and you get a better draft pick in return because the other team's not paying all $11 million. That does happen pretty often. This is where the room gets mad and people start throwing tomatoes at me right now. I'm just looking at Kyle Pitts' numbers. Someone give me a good reason why a guy who played all 17 games the last 2 years and saw his targets go down from 90 to 74 should be on the books for nearly $11 million. Someone give me a good reason why someone who played less than 50% of snaps 4 out of the last 5 weeks going into Week 18 against the Panthers should be on the books for another $11 million. I'm not here to say I don't believe in Kyle Pitts or I think he's a bust or anything like that. But it does not make sense to have that much of a cap space devoted to a player who is not being used enough. Why spend $10.8 million on a guy who's playing 45% of snaps? He was not a fit down the stretch in the Atlanta's offense. He had a big touchdown against the Commanders, and outside of that, very little notable plays. So, if you can tell me how spending $10.8 million on him is a good investment, I'm with you. But if Pitts comes back for another 600-yard season and 3 touchdowns and plays 50% of snaps, that is a bad usage of $10.8 million. So now we'll see everyone flood the comments with no. I know moving on from a 4th overall pick is a major sign of defeat, but Atlanta has to figure out a plan with Kyle Pitts, or they need to move on from him and get something for him while they can, because it's not heading on a good direction for him to come back in free agency. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Make sure you subscribe down below if you have not already. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit the thumbs up button as always. And also, let me know you're still watching by the end of the video by dropping an ATL in the comment section. Should Atlanta trade for Kyle Pitts? I am Greg. Who? Yeah, trade away. Sorry, I said trade for, trade away. I am Greg. Who replaces him, Petey? Well, Charlie Warner was on the field a lot more than Pitts was down the stretch, so that's your first replacement. The draft, this is a good year to go tight end hunting. It's a deep tight end class. So you can find one in the draft, although you don't have a ton of draft picks. So I think you might have to just roll the dice with a cheaper veteran free agent. Instead of paying Pitts $11 million to get 600 yards, you can find a tight end that you pay $3 million to get 500 yards. And I'll take the savings for the 100-yard difference.
I'm just so confused. Like, he's not a bad player.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Kyle Pitts, the tight end, not a bad player at all.
I don't know why it doesn't work.
Kyle Pitts, tight end on the Falcons, not a good player.
Carson, still can't believe we let Jonnu Smith walk. Jonnu Smith is a prime example of you move on from Pitts and you sign a veteran like Jonnu Smith, who we saw be very productive for half the cost. That's called efficiency, baby.
Like, they just don't use him. Like, him as a tight end, he's a good player.
Yeah.
But as a Falcons tight end, he's not. And I don't get it.
Tyrese George. When I talked about those cut candidates, I hope you picked up on my hesitation in my voice. I don't have a good answer for who replaces Caleb McGarry. Maybe you kick Jake Matthews over to right tackle. But if you want to know who you can cut to actually generate some cap space, those are the top three suspects and the prime candidates. All right, next up on the show, we have a mailbag. So if you have any questions you would like to ask, use hashtag Falcons or Super Chat. And if you Super Chat, we guarantee your question, your take, your idea gets on screen. Otherwise, Reed picks his favorite questions out of the chat when you include hashtag Falcons. See, like Jaden, he's only played 1 year with the same quarterback all year. I get that. But when you're taking 4th overall, it's because you're so talented that you overcome things like that, right? That's kind of the belief in someone who goes that early in the draft. I can understand that excuse for someone who hasn't had a lot of production as like a 5th-round pick. But you use a premium asset on him because he's so good, doesn't matter who his quarterback is. Look at Justin Jefferson. He hasn't blinked once from Kirk Cousins going down to Sam Darnold coming in this year. That's kind of the expectation. Yep, Malik Neighbors. How about Brian Thomas for the Jags? Trevor Lawrence did not play well, and then after he got hurt, Thomas, I think, still led the NFL in yards by all rookies. I think he was the rookie receiving leader. Adrian, is he supposed to throw it to himself? No, I'm saying he's supposed to be so good that he can get open that any quarterback can find him. He's supposed to be so good that even a semi-accurate pass he can catch. The Bright Wolf is here. No, Trucker Mike, though. Damn. Oh, well. I also think Atlanta's going to trade Kyle Pitts, and some of you are going to be very upset and very disappointed. I don't know what to tell you other than if they're not going to use him all that much, why are you keeping him? No one's been able to answer me that question yet. I love how Darnold is now considered good, whereas Darnold 2 years ago you would not consider all that good. All right, here we go. Let's jump into a mailbag. It is mailbag time here on Falcons Today. I'm answering questions that came in during our live show, which airs every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Quick reminder, though, for today's episode, scroll on down, click the like button if you haven't already, and do it on every episode if you don't mind. It's a great way to support the channel. Now let's get into our first question on today's mailbag, coming in from Liam. Could you see the Falcons trading Kirk for Jermaine Johnson II from the Jets? Jermaine Johnson II, not the second-round pick. I was a big fan of Jermaine Johnson as a prospect coming out of Florida State. He did suffer a season-ending, I think it was an Achilles injury early on this past season or the season before, so the production won't jump out to you, but I'm not too turned off by a injury early in your career because we've come a long way in the medical field, and younger players can bounce back pretty well from those injuries. But I don't think the Jets are going to part ways with Jermaine Johnson, especially for Kirk Cousins. I think the Jets are actually probably more content with Tyrod Taylor than we realized to be their quarterback. So the Jets, they might inquire about Cousins, but not for a player that was taken in the first round, no. Vincent Cuts, hoping we re-sign Simmons and Judon and trade for Garrett or Parsons and draft Will Johnson. That's a lot right there. I'm going to push back on the re-signing of Judon. I don't mind re-signing Simmons because while he probably wasn't as explosive of a playmaker that we would have hoped he could have been this past season, I don't think he was downright awful. But I don't sense a reunion in the making. I really don't sense a reunion in the making for Judon. As for Garrett or Parsons, Garrett requesting a trade, far more likely. My gut tells me the Cowboys, they're going to try and keep things interesting and stay in the news, but they're not actually going to end up dealing Parsons. And yes, I agree. Will Johnson is my dream pick for Atlanta at 15. I'm telling you right now, give it 3 years, and the first time someone does a redraft of the 2025 NFL Draft, Will Johnson will go at minimum, if he's taken 15, 5, 6, 7 spots earlier in a redraft. Aiden Stackhouse, with Michael Penix Jr. saying he still believes in Kyle Pitts, do you think he can bring the best out of Pitts next year? If you are a second-year quarterback, you should say you believe in everyone. You are not at the liberty to be in front of a microphone and bashing teammates. So, yeah, no surprise here that he is going to support his teammates while he is on the same roster as them. I would hope that, but I am losing faith in Pitts being successful in Atlanta. There's just too many data points to point to he is not living up to expectations, and maybe one day he will, but I don't think it's going to happen in ATL. Literally Todd Gurley. What do you think about trading for Reek Woolen? So that's the Seahawks corner who is opposite of Devin Witherspoon, their 5th overall pick a few years ago out of Illinois. I am open to the idea from a surface level standpoint. Now, this past season, he was not a good fit in Seattle, a.k.a. he clashed with the head coach a lot. There was a benching at some point. There was some team discipline going on. He's, I would say, always been, but he's been a little bit of a diva. But he was a Pro Bowler in 2022 as a rookie, a 5th-round draft pick, putting up 6 interceptions and 16 pass breakups. Now, I don't expect corners to have the same amount of interceptions year to year. If you have a lot one year, no one wants to throw to you the next year. So I'm open to the idea. It really comes down to, do you want to trade for a player or re-sign Mike Hughes and not give up any draft capital? Atlanta only has 5 draft picks. My suspicion is they're going to end up with more, not less, by trading back at some points in the draft, not by giving up 20, 40% of their draft arsenal. So I'd probably prefer the re-signing route, but I do think there is a lot to like about Woolen's game. I don't think Atlanta is going to be in the interest or in the market for trading for corners at this point. Carson, thoughts on the Mike Green off-the-field character concern rumors? So, Carson, glad you kind of asked this because I was not really aware. I was loosely aware that there was something that happened when he transferred from Virginia to Marshall. But I'm not a Virginia fan, I'm not a Marshall fan, and I'm not a college football blog boy on the message boards to really get into the juicy details. But I had heard that something happened when he left Virginia that led him to enter the transfer portal. He was invited to the NFL Combine. I am sure teams are going to want to learn about Green, the person, because we hear all these crazy and wild draft stories about how they ask bizarre questions at these meetings and whatnot, and we probably forget to incorporate the human side into our pre-draft evaluation. We usually just base it off of production and how tall, fat, or skinny and fast they are. So I don't have any concerns because I don't know what the issue was. I don't know what happened. I've never spoken to Mike Green, but there's some concerns with Mike Green, or at least enough to have a conversation about it with him. Poison Ivy. What is a surprise cut and a surprise signing that is doable, and why? Okay, good question. Surprise cut, I think, would be from an actual money-saving standpoint, because they might cut some guys that are just because they're not good. I would say Caleb McGarry would be a surprise. I don't think it's like some foregone conclusion that Atlanta's going to release their starting right tackle, who's one of the best run blockers in the game. He's not a fan favorite, and he is not the best in pass protection, but I think it would still catch me a little bit off guard, and I'm not going to go as far to say guarantee McGarry gets cut. So I would say Caleb, but I don't know if that's like a huge surprise to you. I don't have a juicier name beyond that. As for a surprise signing, I can just think of names that we've kind of talked about on the show. Maybe they go after a bigger name corner. That would be a surprise to me. Like Byron Murphy from the Vikings. If they want to pair him with AJ Terrell, that's financially doable, but I would suspect they don't go for a splash free agent signing at corner. They probably want to do that at edge rusher, and that could be like Khalil Mack. Before we get on to the rest of the questions on today's episode, I do have to give a big shout out to our friends over at Factor. Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They are dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. So you can fuel up and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. You can reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Now, I love Factor when it comes to trying to eat a little bit better, eat a little bit healthier without doing a whole bunch of work in the kitchen. Factor takes all that away from you, and it's ready to roll in just a few minutes. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off and use code FalconsChat50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FalconsChat50off at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Emmanuel, any chance we trade back in round 1 and double dip in rounds 1 and 2 for a pass rusher? Emmanuel, I think there's a good chance that Atlanta could move back from 15. It's a very deep edge rusher defensive line class in general. For reference, at last year's combine, 25 defensive tackles were invited. This year, 41. So if Atlanta feels like, hey, the guy we get at 15 at the edge spot and the guy we get at 22 at the edge spot are not miles apart, it might be worth adding an extra second-round pick given you only have 5 picks, 2 of which I think are just worthless. They're 7th-rounders. So 3 decent picks in the first 4 rounds of the draft, but nothing in round 3, Judon trade, nothing in round 5, tampering, allegedly. So, yeah, Emmanuel, I think there is a good chance Atlanta tries to trade back a little bit, but as always, it takes 2 to tango. You got to find a team that wants to trade up. Archangel, what could have the most impact on our defense this year? Our new defensive coach, free agency, or simply hitting in the draft? Good question. I'm going to lean towards the player side. Players play, coaches coach. And step 1 for fixing Atlanta's defense is addressing the pass rush. The secondary at times last year was not great, but You're not going to go anywhere if you can't get to the quarterback. So now you come to the free agency or hitting on the draft fork in the road. I would say the draft part. It's not a tremendous free agency class at pass rusher. Like last year, you had Danielle Hunter, Jonathan Grenard. Those are two big names right there. Andrew Van Ginkel. There's none of those guys in this draft class. There's no Danielle Hunter. There's no Jonathan Grenard. I don't think there's anyone in this. I might be wrong. I don't think there's any pass rusher in this free agency grouping that had 10 or more sacks this past year. Maybe Josh Sweat from the Eagles, but Josh Sweat is too inconsistent for me to actually give real edge rusher money to. So I would say hitting in the draft. Is Villa, what are the odds we make little to no moves and just make our additions in the draft? Would you support that? I think there's a decent chance at that. And that's not the fun answer, but if you're Atlanta, like how about this? Compared to the Texans, they saw the success they had with C.J. Stroud. So they go into the offseason, they trade for Stephon Diggs, they sign Danielle Hunter, right? They make all these big splashy moves because they feel like now is the time to strike. Atlanta may not feel like now is the time to strike and overpay average players to guarantee they come to our team when you still got to figure out, like, do we have a surefire thing with 9? Might feel good about it, but we need to see a little bit more. So with them being in the negative right now for the salary cap and not having a ton of draft capital, I don't think they're going to be big fish when the offseason rolls around. ZD Productions, are we getting a new O-line for Penix because he is left-handed? The change you would make is Caleb McGarry at right tackle. If I could ask Raheem Morris one question, it would be, 1, are you playing Madden to learn how to manage a clock? And then 2, do you plan on switching Matthews and McGarry this offseason? Because I don't think it's a good idea to just fingers crossed and hope McGarry decides he'll be a better pass protector this year. There should be some plan. We'll find out what it is, but offensive line plans are kind of tough to predict from afar because they're so rooted in like the offensive line coach. And those guys, they're not there to put out fun, leaky splash rumors. They're there to hit people and play football. Phoenix, Petey, what would you expect in return for a pitch trade? Good question, Phoenix. If Atlanta eats a lot of his $10 million, you could probably get a third-round pick. Although, if the other team did not know Kyle Pitts was taken 4th overall, and they saw 2 straight seasons of 600 yards and 3 to 4 touchdowns, would you trade third-round pick for that? No. So I think what's more likely is you probably get like a 4th and a 6th. Maybe a day 3 pick swap where you get a 4th and they get your 7th. I think you're looking at day 3 picks. Grand Limousine. Doesn't Kirk have to agree to a trade? Yes. Kirk Cousins has a no-trade clause. Atlanta cannot just ship him off willy-nilly wherever they want. Now, the card the Falcons could pull if they want to make a trade but Kirk says no to it is, all right, Kirk, you made your bed. Now you're going to sleep in it. We're not trading you, and we're not going to release you, and you're going to be a backup here. Or you can go to this team where they want you to start. Your call. We'll see if Atlanta would want to keep Cousins hostage in this stare down or just say, fine, we're going to release you and move on. I don't think they're going to try and keep him hostage. I don't think Cousins will be on this roster beyond March 17th. Super chat coming in from Jaden. Jaden, thank you so much for the super. Really appreciate it, my guy. Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers, etc. thought they all have bad quarterback play. They are the main targets. Kyle is on an offense where there's a top 3 running back and 2 1,000-yard receivers on the same. I think there's more to it. Yeah. Jaden, I'm not quite sure exactly what point you're trying to make here, but yeah, Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers were both good premium draft picks and both made like a lot of production without having a lot around them. So I think if we're on the same page here, it's Pitts, There's clearly yards to be had. This offense is moving down the field. What's the expression like? Quiet mouths don't get fed. Like, go out there and take it. And he has not done that so far. So if he does not see an increase in his role for the upcoming season, I don't see the justification for passing on a draft pick for him and getting salary cap relief in the process. Last question coming in from my burner, which I can't believe you found this picture still. What was the most tough Falcons loss? I want to say the Saints game on the road because that was the start of the losing streak. And if Younghoe Koo just makes one more field goal, we're going to overtime. Two more field goals, just 3 for 4, all from close distance. Atlanta wins the game. And fortunately, no. So I would lean towards the Saints game on the road because that began this horrible snowball of going to Denver, getting your teeth kicked in, get the bye, you come back home from the bye, and you play the Chargers, who are on a short week, and Cousins throws more touchdowns to LA than Atlanta. And I'm not sure if those things happen differently, but maybe you have a little bit more momentum if you knock off the Saints. And one more win, you go 9-8, and you could have something more meaningful to play for down the stretch instead of needing so much more help from Tampa Bay. That will do it for us on our mailbag today. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. Make sure to like the video if you have not already, and I'll catch up with you all later.
So I saw Archangel talking about everyone's talking about Kyle Pitts and everything, and I see they simply not passing the man the ball. They're simply not putting him on the field.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
The coaching staff
they're not giving him chances.
The coaching staff has
either
decreased their faith in him.
So either get him out of here or put him on the field because he's a good tight end.
Yeah. And I really don't have like an explanation for how Pitts has not lived up to the draft type. But he hasn't. And the quicker everyone comes to terms with that and realizes the team is not using him as much and they're paying him a lot next year, it's in everyone's best interest to go their separate ways, the better. Trucker Mike was here earlier. You didn't alert us, Trucker Tie Man? Is Trucker Mike really here? This is what I live for. It's Thursday with Trucker Mike, and I'm guessing the States. Okay. Well, unless Trucker Mike makes himself known, we will sign off on today's show. Trucker Mike. Come on. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us on today's live show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh, my God. At the 11th hour. Here we go. Where is Trucker Mike? Everyone make your predictions where Trucker Mike is. Last time he was in Missouri, Kansas City specifically. If you don't know the shtick here, peekaboo, abracadabra. If you don't know the shtick here, basically, Trucker Mike is our resident trucker, and every week we try to guess what state he is driving in. He usually hangs around the Southeast, but he has been known to venture to other waters. So, what are you thinking, Reed? Maybe he's on a bit of a West Coast path. I'm going to go with Mississippi.
I'm going Kentucky.
Okay, I like that. Yep. I'm going to go with Mississippi. Everyone else get your guesses in right now. Where is Trucker Mike? And you're with Archangel's with you. Trucker Mike, Give us give everyone 60 seconds to guess, and then let us know. I also like how Trucker Mike says blank got it, and then we gotta look up and see what they said.
Yeah.
Man, we were literally about to sign off, Trucker Mike.
That was gonna ruin my day.
ZD is locking in Kansas. Aiden Stackhouse is going with Chicago. Philip is going with the Peach State.
We needed
See,
to ask a
Vincent says
question.
Philadelphia. This is the second straight time he said a city, not a state. If he truly is in Philadelphia, I'm calling collusion. I'm calling collusion. Trucker Mike, let us know where you are. Imagine if we started a real gambling ring about this. Just acknowledge what?
we would need
Trucker
to
Mike,
know,
we have acknowledged you a million times on today's live show.
we would need to really know if Vincent is in collusion. Because if he's in collusion, we can't start gambling on this.
I know. Trucker Mike, reveal. What state today? You got 147 people, probably all in very different, some of you may be in the car, some people at work, some people at home, and everyone's just waiting on this.
Just be like, just send in a $5 Venmo to see where Trucker Mike is.
Yeah.
If you get it, you get the whole thing.
Come on, Trucker Mike, where are you? Give us the state. Give us the state. Going with Mississippi. I guess the smart guess is take the biggest state. Just from a size perspective. Yeah. Trucker Mike, we need you.
He always
Can't blue ball us like this, dude.
I think he's looking for someone who got it. And that's why yeah,
Trucker Mike, he likes
loves
to build
he
up.
loves the anticipation.
Yeah, he does. He does. He knows everyone's waiting on him. He's going to announce his location when he's ready. Trucker Mike, don't do this. Come on, dude. I'm begging you. I got to use the little boy's room. Trucker Mike. Give us the state. I'm going to count down from 10, and Trucker Mike will put it in the chat by then. 10. Carson, you can't change states. Hint, back in the Southeast, a specific interstate. Okay, we got some traction here. Specific interstate. I mean, Tennessee, I-40. I'm going to stick with Mississippi. I'm in the Southeast. Could be on 75 or 85.
I'll stick with Kentucky.
Could be on 20. Could be on 10 going through Louisiana.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you got for us?
Let us know, Trucker Mike. I'm counting down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Arkansas.
Or did Ark get it?
Or the Ark Eddie. Whoa.
Wait, is it? I think it's Arkansas.
I think it's got to be Arkansas.
It's got to be Arkansas.
What did Archangels say Kentucky?
Yeah, which would mean I win.
Wait, I'm saying, what the?
So.
I saying no. Oh, no.
It's
So I think it's Arkansas.
I think it's Arkansas.
Arkansas? Can we get confirmation?
Oh, he does this on purpose.
I said Arkansas last week, and I thought about re-guessing it, but I was like, no, you got to switch it up. It's got to be Arkansas.
It's got to be Arkansas.
Did anyone say Arkansas? I don't think I saw one Arkansas.
I think that's why it took so long, because he was looking for
Yeah.
someone who said Arkansas.
Probably, yes.
And nobody said Arkansas.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I know. Ark, I thought we got it. Man.
Yeah, I did too. All right. Wait, now it says 85 Alabama. Archangel. Sorry, Trucker Mike. You're putting a pretzel on my head. What is it? Arkansas Was Ark like a typo? Is it Alabama now? I think it's 85 Alabama. He gave us the highway. All right, final answer is Alabama. I don't know what that Ark business was about. Maybe he was talking to Archangel. But I'm going to say final answer is Alabama from Trucker Mike. Yeah. I don't know. All right. That will do it for us on today's live show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in every single week. I greatly appreciate your support of the channel. He's in 85 North Alabama. There is a Whataburger. No, I don't know if the Whataburger's close to you right now. Okay. Is a Whataburger outside of as you come into Birmingham. So that's it for today's live show. I'll see everyone tomorrow.